Welcome back to News Across Nigeria. Now, the state of internally displaced persons camps across the country have been on the front burner, and with the recent victory over the Boko Haram terrorists in the northeast, some of the camps are reportedly said to be ready for closure as far as going back to their natural habitation is concerned. Now, we'll be speaking with a social worker on the condition of the internally displaced persons in Adamawa State, where about 3 camps are said to be ready for closure, according to reports. We'll be speaking with Mrs. Iye Jonathan Iche, who's a social worker on this issue. You're welcome to News Across Nigeria. And if you can hear me, so do you think that the displaced persons are ready to leave the camps?
Displaced persons are always ready to leave camps if there are viable alternatives for them. The Nigerian government, the state governments have a responsibility to IDPs in ensuring that they are rehabilitated, that they're able to return home safely. And in many instances, they're also compensated when needed for their losses. So as far as there are alternatives, because IDP camps are really meant to be a temporary solution, they're not meant to be a place where people go and stay ad infinitum. The most important thing is what are they being returned to, and where they're going back to, they're ready to have them back, whether it's safe. And I think the government of Adamawa believes that that is the situation, and I believe that's why they've taken that decision.
Do you think that that is correct, that their homes and their communities are safe now, and the infrastructure, the basic infrastructure is there for them to return to, water, security, housing?
I think from going around certain communities in the northeast and indeed in other areas where people have been displaced from, reconstruction activities are very slow. And I mean, even in our natural, normal lives in Nigeria, we don't have running water, we don't have electricity typically. So you can imagine what a place that has been devastated by conflict would be like. Just a point to note that in Adamawa in particular, you have, due to the last statistics that came out from there in October, released by NEMA and the International Office for Migration, you only had about 12,000 people in camps. Now, 12,000 sounds like a lot, but compare that with 157,000 displaced people living in host communities. So a lot of resources are channeled towards these camps, and rightly so, but we also need to realize that over 80% of displaced people do not live in camps, and they also need attention. And I think the government's attention should constantly be on how to rehabilitate and return and help people who have been displaced to resettle, either where they've moved to or if they want to go back home, to go back home.
We certainly hope that becomes the case. Thank you so much for coming on News Across Nigeria.
Thank you so much.
Now to the southwest, the last 5 years have been over 100 companies opened shop in Ogun State, but some of these industries have been unable to begin operations. That's because the firms are challenged by foreign exchange scarcity and lack of access to raw materials. In response to the situation, the State Commissioner for Commerce and Industry, Mr. Bimbo Ashiru, says measures have been put in place to address their concerns.
But the problem they have is that the issue of raw materials, items that were banned, and we have been able to encourage them to find out that, okay, I'll give you an example. We went to Unilever, and we found out that some of their raw materials have been sourced from the north. And we said, we can do something. Let us see how the raw materials can be sourced locally, because nearness to raw materials reduces the cost of transportation for them. So we want to make sure that the transportation cost is reduced. They have, and if you look at the way we plan our industrial area, we want to encourage backward integration, and we want to encourage people that are servicing each other. For example, we have Nestle at the flag gate. We have Olam, which is one of the major suppliers of raw materials. Apple and Pears, they have their raw materials from Olam. Then we are giving Impact just around the corner. SAB Miller is coming. So many of these industries. So, I mean, beside SAB Miller, Glassforce want to open their own factory there because they are one of the major raw material suppliers for SAB Miller because they do the bottling and everything. So once you have that and you are very close to your raw materials, it helps. It reduces your cost of funds, and at the same time, you'll be able to make money and you'll be able to do CSR because it's very key. I always say that for any entrepreneur to see the kingdom of heaven, they must be socially responsible. Once you are making profit, I mean, it's been said, it's not a law, but most companies, they have 1% of their profit after tax earmarked for CSR. So they'll be able to do something in the community where they operate. The stakeholders there, both internal and external stakeholders, be able to benefit from what they are getting from those industries around there. So we have all these things balanced, and we are planning them so that we can ensure that the backward integration, the issue of raw materials, the issue of packaging, the issue of transportation, reducing the cost, so that at the end of the day, the employees and the employers will be happy.
And that's where we call it a day for this edition of News Across Nigeria, where we tell you what's happening across the country. Thanks for watching. I'm Olumide Macaulay.